Hello, everyone. Who are you?
My name is Colfax, and I am a software engineer at a company called Privy.
Can you say where are we right now?
So we are in Brussels at the Urbe Hacker House, which is one of the surrounding events around ECC.
Which event do you like the most so far?
It's hard. There's been so many good events. There's a group called ETH Staker, which is a community that focuses on staking on Ethereum and solo stakers and educating them. And they ran a trivia game at the ECC main event. So I had a lot of fun going to that. There was I think like 50 different trivia questions ranging from like Ethereum history to technical details of the Ethereum protocol to some like Ethereum culture related things. And the winners, the top 5 won a Ledger device, a Ledger wallet. So I ended up coming from behind and I got in the top 5 by the end, so I won one. I did. I was so surprised.
What was the most difficult question?
There were a couple questions about which features were a part of which hard fork on Ethereum, and I got a few of those mixed up. For example, like what hard fork initiated the merge. So I was pretty involved in the community back then, but I didn't get it right. And there was some contention because the merge, so for those not familiar, Ethereum transitioned from proof of work to proof of stake. It's otherwise known as the merge because there's these two chains that were merging together. And the core merge happened at one hard fork, but then a little bit later withdrawals of validators happened. And some people thought that the second fork was truly what completed the merge, whereas other people thought that the merge happened really at the first hard fork. So a little bit of fun contention there too.
You have a deep knowledge on Ethereum.
Yeah, some of it. I spent some time working with some different communities around staking on Ethereum, specifically staking at home, so what we call solo staking. So like actually running a validator in your house, as opposed to either staking with a provider, like a centralized exchange, or like staking with a different provider, actually like running the validator yourself.
What does it take to do that?
It's simpler than it seems, but it still takes a little bit of effort and some capital. So in order to set up a validator, you need 32 Ether. And then you need to have a computer. Basically, I run it on a computer sort of about this size. It's an Intel NUC. Maybe it's about the power of like a modern laptop. And then you need to have some programming abilities to be able to set up the software.
But you need 32 ETH, right?
You need 32 ETH. That's the big.
It's a little catch.
Yes, that's the little catch. So there's other protocols that allow you to sort of share stake across different validators. Like for example, Rocket Pool, you only need 8 ETH. Plus just a little bit of extra as like an insurance mechanism. So there are different ways you can get involved without having 32 ETH.
Do you know about restaking?
A little bit. I haven't really delved into that, but it's an exciting new area.
Would you like to try to explain your understanding?
My general understanding with restaking is, so like the Ethereum protocol is built in a very secure manner, and there's like a certain amount of capital around like the stakers that is securing the network. There's a lot of other chains that are launching. A lot of people want to also have a similar level of security on their chain, but they don't necessarily want to or need to design another protocol similar to Ethereum to secure that network. So it's my understanding that restaking allows you to build another chain on top of Ethereum and utilize the same security guarantees of the underlying Ethereum protocol.
How did you start your career as a developer?
So actually I was originally studying finance and economics in college, but I was in the engineering school, and one of the requirements for my core curriculum was to take a computer science class. And I remember that semester I both took an econ class and a computer science class, and they were both my hardest classes. And I absolutely loved the computer science class, and I hated the economics class. So the next semester I changed my major and decided to study computer science.
Where did you study?
I went to a school in New York City called Columbia.
Where are you from?
So yeah, I originally grew up in California, and I went to college in New York City, and I lived there for about 10 years, and now I live in Boston. My heritage of my family, I'm actually half Italian, so that's why I'm very excited about the Ethereum community.
What brought you into blockchain?
I had been broadly following what was going on in the blockchain space over a number of years, but I was never super excited about it because to me, I didn't understand how it was going to impact end users and like actually solve a real problem for people. Until about 2020, what people call DeFi summer. when I first started understanding what could be built with decentralized finance, just as one use case, it started to click for me how real people can actually be impacted by blockchain technology and how we can actually build meaningful applications for people. So that's something that makes me really passionate is how can we actually make blockchains usable by end users and actually make people's lives better.
How do you think the blockchain will make people's lives better?
I don't really know yet, but one thing that I think is an important infrastructure piece to make that happen is making blockchains more usable. So like right now, it's very hard for a user to use a blockchain. I think that it's hard to build an application that will help people if they can't even get to the point where they can use the application. So that's actually what I'm doing for work right now is trying to make blockchains more usable. And then I think once they're more usable, we'll be able to iterate and experiment with solutions to actually help impact people's lives.
Would you like to talk a little bit about your current work at Privy?
What we are building at Privy is an onboarding tool, so basically an SDK that blockchain developers can integrate. Our SDK does two core things. One, it can handle your wallet connections. So like any type of wallet that would want to connect to your app, we have the connection for most all wallets for EVM chains currently. And then the second part of our system is a Web2 authentication mechanism. So log in with email, log in with any sort of like social login, so like LinkedIn, Instagram, Spotify, Facebook, things like that. And if your user logs in with a Web2 method, we'll actually create a wallet for them that'll live in their browser. And so that way you can focus on building your app and how you're going to impact people's lives and make their lives better. And we can handle the onboarding piece. So like any user, whether they've used Web3 or not, will be able to use your app and experience the benefits.
When you use a social login in Privy, do you split the private key? What kind of mechanism do you use to store the private key and create the wallet?
The way that we handle the private key is we split the key into 3 shares using Shamir secret sharing. And the way that the key works is essentially you need at least 2 of the 3 shares to reconstitute the key to use it. Only the user can ever reassemble their key with the share. So only the user will ever have access to 2 shares at the same time. So the way that it works in the simple case is the user logs in, a key is created for them in their browser, split into 3 pieces. One piece will live in that browser. A second piece is actually sent to Privy, and Privy stores it. So the happy path is whenever the user logs in next, the user will get authenticated with Privy. Privy will return that second share, and then the user can now use their wallet in their browser. The third share is what we call the recovery share. So if the user logs in on a new device, the user will be able to log in, they retrieve the share from Privy, but they don't have their device share. And so the way that they're able to reconstitute their wallet is at their initial sign up, they pick a recovery method for where their recovery share will be stored. And an example of where it can be stored is like the user's cloud storage, so like iCloud account. And so the user then logs into Privy, and then we detect that they are logging in for the first time on their device. So they then log into their iCloud account, retrieve their recovery share, and then they can reconstitute their wallet on the new device.
This was really good explanation. I liked it.
That was a lot of details. I explained to you as a developer, but our objective is to make this super easy for everybody to understand and use. End user don't need to understand all the mechanics of how it's going on. We try and provide like a simple interface. So it's not going to be that complicated when you actually try it out. And
Nice.
so the other important detail there is say somebody's iCloud account gets compromised, which would be disastrous for many reasons. But now you have one share in your iCloud account. The important part about this architecture is that if an attacker gets a hold of one share, they can't do anything to the user's wallet. One share doesn't do anything. So we build it in such a way that we kind of talk about defense in depth. So there's many layers of defense. And not only do we store things in secure places, but if something were to be compromised, we want there to be another layer of security. Another way of thinking about it, are you familiar with the Swiss cheese risk mitigation model?
No.
So think about if we had 10 slices of Swiss cheese and we put them on top of each other. Each piece of cheese has a hole in it or multiple holes, But if you wanted to put your finger through the entire stack of cheese, the likelihood that your finger would line up with a hole on top of a hole on top of a hole on top of a hole is unlikely because the holes are kind of in random places. And so bringing that concept to security, the way we build our system is with many different layers. So nobody's perfect and no software system is perfect. And so there may be a issue or like a vulnerability or a bug in one part of the system, but the idea is there are many different layers of security, and the likelihood of a vulnerability to line up in all the layers of security to actually result in a compromise of the user is lower because of how many layers of the system there are.
Amazing. What is your role in Privy?
I'm on the engineering team. I actually focus specifically on our embedded wallet system, and then even more specifically, I actually worked a lot on our cloud recovery mechanism. So one of those layers of Swiss cheese, so to speak.
Privy is just about social login, or is more smart account focused wallet?
Right now, native Privy wallets are what people call EOAs, or externally owned accounts. And what that means is they're just like a traditional wallet with like a private key and a public key. We have integrations with a couple partners that actually do smart accounts, and you can use your Privy wallet as a way to interact with your smart contract wallet. But we don't have a native smart contract wallet integration yet on Privy, but it's something that we're researching.
What do you think about this multi-universe of blockchains that are growing and growing? Do you think it's beneficial for the ecosystem to have a lot of L2s, a lot of parallel blockchains? Do you think is better, or it's a barrier for the adoption of the blockchain?
I actually think some of each. So I think on one hand, it's exciting to see all the innovation and all of the different use cases that different L2s and different blockchains are being created for. And I definitely think it will be a multi-chain world in the future. In the short term, though, I do think it actually creates a barrier to adoption. Even many people that are experienced already with Web3, it's still very challenging to, like, say, bridge assets across chains. And so I think we still need to build a lot of infrastructure to make it usable. I think it's almost certain like we're going to end up with a multi-chain world, but I think the end user eventually won't necessarily know what is happening where.